what's up there, YouTubers? And it's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo / gaming video for this week, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinions for the week of November 3rd to November 9th. And we got 6 stories to cover this week, including the possibility that Valve might be competing against Google Stadia, rumors about the whole situation with Playtonic and whether or not they are going to be purchased by Microsoft, although Playtonic later released a statement. Some more information have come out about Persona 5 Scramble and No More Heroes 3, and rumors about the whole situation with the 3DS, ranging from certain Fire Emblem games being canceled to Nintendo making a statement in regards to the 3DS, at least at the moment. And of course, BlizzCon 2019, whether that went over well or not compared to last year's BlizzCon, not to mention the whole Hong Kong protest mess that has really stuck to Blizzard recently, though. But before we get started, why don't we do a quick rundown on the quick My 2 Cent part, and look at some of the stories that somewhat caught my attention, though, but weren't, well, let's just say somewhat did caught my attention, though. The first one, obviously, is for those who are diehard Super Smash Bros. Fans. Terry Bogard is now available to download for Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo Switch, along with a new update and so forth. So if you are a diehard Smash Bros. Fan, something you probably want to take a look at. One character that probably won't be making an appearance, at least according to Mr. Sakurai himself, is the character, I think, Mai, M-A-I. Apologize if I can't say her name correctly, though. She's one of the famous popular female characters, although she goes by another nickname. I remember hearing this back in the 90s. Pardon my language on it, referred to as the Be Bouncy Woman, Be Bouncy Fighter to be exact. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like she's going to be in the game, at least according to what Mr. Sakura said, which, at least if this was translated correctly, that Smash Bros. Is for all the good boys and girls out there, which, I mean, yes, it's their decision, but at the same time, you're not willing to put a character like her in Super Smash Bros., but you're willing to put a character like, say, Bayonetta in there, which is, by the way, from a M-rated game compared to the King of Fighters game, which I believe is a T-rated game. So it just seems a little odd for Nintendo to do that. I mean, again, it's their decision, but I think it's sort of an odd decision to begin with, though. But that's my take on it, though. But either way, Terry Bogard's available for anybody who has Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo Switch available to download. We also learned that Red Dead Redemption 2 has now finally come to the PC, but there have been reports that the game is basically like broken or has bugs and glitches, and supposedly Rockstar is addressing the problem, trying to get that one fixed for PC gamers. While it's great that the game's coming to the PC, though, it is a little disappointing if this report is true about the fact that the game is in a rough spot in terms of the PC version, which obviously to me tells me they didn't optimize it for the PC properly. But again, I don't have a PC, so I don't know how the PC version would play against the PS4 version. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to wait and see whether the update fixes anything, to be exact. We also learned that Luigi's Mansion 3 entered into the UK charts this week. It was supposed to be the biggest Switch launch for 2019 so far for this franchise. I believe it entered in at number 2, which is certainly not that bad indeed. It'll be interesting to see how it is in the coming weeks. And I'm also very curious to see where does it rank, at least in the NPT charts, when we finally get those, probably near the end of November and so forth. And finally, we also hear that basically we now have at least somewhat of a concrete release date for the Switch version of The Outer Worlds, which to me, it is a good game. I would definitely recommend some folks go pick it up and play it, especially if you don't like what Bethesda's been doing lately, especially with Fallout 76 and so forth. And supposedly, at least according to what Take-Two and Private Division are saying, at least from this report from Nintendo Life, is the fact that the game will probably be released sometime before the end of March 2020, which to me, that's good. At the same time, I still would like to see some gameplay footage or screenshots of the Switch version to see how well the game holds up. So I'm hoping we'll get more of those, get some information on that. But if what they're saying is true, I mean, it doesn't seem to be a long wait or anything like that. I was a little concerned how long of a wait we would have to be for the Switch version, but if what they're saying is correct, it could be out before March 2020, so that wouldn't be a long wait indeed. Alright, with the quick My 2 cent part out of the way, we'll get started with our part 1, and this one has to do with BlizzCon 2019. Now, Blizzard obviously has not been in the greatest position lately. Last year's BlizzCon did not sit very well with everybody, especially with the announcement of Diablo Immortal, the Diablo game for the mobile games like ISO and Android. That did not get a lot of positive response, from being downvoted a lot on YouTube to some comments made by the audience like, is this an out of season April Fool's joke, to the infamous, what, you guys don't have phones. So it was pretty bad, and Blizzard has also been headlines for negative reasons. We've had the whole situation where several employees have been laid off, courtesy of Activision, because they didn't make all the money in the world, to the whole Hong Kong protest, which I'm sure most of you have read and heard about at this point, and have come to your opinion and so forth. So it hasn't been great. So they really had to deliver with BlizzCon 2019 this year. And I will say, based on what I've read so far, I will say to some degree they did, and to some degree they didn't. There are some things they did, sounds like they did right with BlizzCon, but there are some parts that they didn't do. In several articles, we'll start off first with, in an article presented over at News Hub, it reads that, let me see if, where is it? Okay, hold on. Where is it? Where is it? I must have clicked it out by mistake. I apologize for that, folks, though. Okay, here it is. BlizzCon 2019, Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, and everything else that happened. Again, if you want to read any of these the articles, links will be in the description down below. What they showed off this year were several games. Obviously, they showed off Diablo 4, which I think a lot of people were waiting for that one, though. They said the show opened with a jaw-dropping, blood-curdling cinematic trailer for Diablo 4, a new entry in the long-running gothic horror action series. The game will take place years after the events of Diablo 3 and pit players against a character from Diablo's lore never before seen in the game, the demonless Lilith, Lillith. Release date is under wraps, but don't expect it anytime soon, although there's certainly been reports that will come to, I think, PS4, Xbox One, although I wouldn't rule out a if that's true, I wouldn't rule out a PS5 or a Xbox Scarlet version. Obviously, it's coming to PC, but no word on whether or not this is going to be, if we're going to see it on Steam, or is this going to be one of those Epic exclusive situation. Also, no word on it coming to the Nintendo Switch, though. But I won't completely rule it out, considering supposedly Diablo 3 on the Nintendo Switch did sell well, so it's not out of the realm of the possibility that Diablo 4 could come to the Nintendo Switch, but as of right now, they don't seem to have announced anything for that one as so far. World of Warcraft, they point out that Blizzard's flagship online RPG is turning 15 this year, but showing no signs of slowing down. The next expansion is Shadowlands and will take place into the realm of the dead with a reworked leveling system, a brand new game mode inspired by the roguelike Gene, and a terrifying new big bad, the Jailer of the Dead. Release date is also unannounced, but if previous games are any indication, expected to announce this time next year. This one, I think a lot of people did not. This one was kind of rumored, but they've confirmed it, and that is Overwatch 2. The regaining king of character shooters, Overwatch is getting a long expected sequel. Overwatch 2 will sport revamped visuals, new characters, and an entirely new game mode, Also included will be the long requested story mode, an interesting opportunity for Blizzard to tell Overwatch narratives more traditional as opposed to in anime shorts and out-of-game comics. Blizzard was tight-lipped as to when fans will be getting their hands on the sequel. However, that while that is said so, it turns out to be it's also coming to the Nintendo Switch as well, which is from an article from Nintendo Life. It reads, quote, BlizzCon has just kicked off, and as expected, the company has announced a comparative narrative-driven follow-up to its popular team-based hero shooter Overwatch. On top of a PC, PS4, or Xbox One announcement, the new entry has also been confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. Overwatch 2 will see players become heroes once again as they participate in 4-player co-op missions that challenge them to team up, power up, and stand together against an overwhelming outbreak of threats across the globe. They put some information. They put as far as the information regarding the heroes' PvE missions. It says, quote, as the story progresses, players will team up as different sets of heroes and fight to defend the world from the Omnic force of Null Sector, uncover their motives behind the robotic army attack, and come face to face with the rising new threat around the globe. The battle continues in hero missions where the Overwatch team will be called upon to go beyond their limits as they deployed across the planet, defending cities against robotic invasion, taking on elite Talon agents, and battling the villainous force laying siege to the world. In this highly replayable mode, players can level up their favorite heroes and earn powerful customization options that supercharge their abilities in co-op play. The competitive aspects of the original title will make a return as well, with existing players' accomplishment and loot collected being carried across to Overwatch 2. The sequel includes the complete Overwatch roster, a new generation of heroes, and new international recognized maps to widen the scope of the world, and a new push map type. Excuse me. It's also been confirmed original Overwatch players will have access to all of the sequel's PvP content. So if you have the original one, it looks like you will have access to all of the player versus player content in Overwatch 2, which certainly is not necessarily a bad thing. As far as the PvE mode, I'm glad that they added that mode. Indeed, that's certainly nice. It might make me interested in trying the game out. I'm not really a big PvP player. I'm more of I'd rather do the players versus enemies though. I'm still a little iffy the fact that it's a co-op though. I mean, I would have liked if they added a single player mode or something like that, but still it's nice that they have a PvE mode in the game nevertheless though. Although as of right now there has been no release date at this time in regards to when it's coming over. So nice that they're doing Overwatch 2. Nice that obviously it's coming to the Switch, so Switch gamers won't be left out. And although they said PS4 and Xbox One, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this pop up on the PS5 or the Xbox Scarlet. Other announcements they made is, of course, the Hearthstone. Card Battle Hearthstone next expansion is Descent of Dragons, which will round out the story set up in the previous 2 content chapters. Fans also won't have long to wait, with the expansion is due to launch December 10th. However, the biggest news for Hearthstone fans was an entirely new game called Battleground, based on the auto chess gene, which has recently exploded onto the gaming scene. And of course, they also mentioned Heroes of the Storm, which is World of Warcraft's mega villain Deathwing, the World Berserker, is coming to multiplayer online battle arena Heroes of the Storm. While it has never reached the commercial height of its gene rival Dota 2 or League of Legends, Heroes has assumed a respectable fan base fueled by its diverse cast of heroes pulled across from every Blizzard game. So there were certainly some good announcements made, though. Obviously, the two big ones, I think a lot of people, was Diablo 4, and of course the rumors about Overwatch 2 turned out to be true. Not to mention we now know it's coming to the Nintendo Switch, so for those who may have enjoyed it on the Switch, are probably going to be looking forward to Overwatch 2 when that comes to the Switch as well. However, although there were some good announcements, obviously, not everything was not far from perfect, and the most obvious reason is, of course, the Hong Kong protest. I'm sure that still has lingered around, and apparently that did not go away at all during BlizzCon. As it's reported, though, it was reported against my news hub, which shows a picture of many people using one of the characters from Overwatch, saying "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times." Not to mention, there were some people in the audience when a Q&A happened that they said, quote, "Free Hong Kong" and all. So it didn't seem like that went away. And it said, quote, and in regards of the protest, it says, well, the events didn't pass completely without controversy. There were small but vocal groups at the front gate protesting BlizzCon's suspension of the Hearthstone player after he expressed support for the Hong Kong protest during a post-match interview. The move drew widespread backlash from fans and even American lawmakers. Blizzard has since softened its stance, returned frozen prize money, and has suspended period to 6 months. Blizzard's president Jay Allen faced the controversy head-on at the ceremony opening. And, quote, some of the comments he said was, quote, Blizzard had an opportunity to bring the world together in a tough Hearthstone esport moment about a month ago. We did not. We moved too quickly in our decision-making, and then to make the matters worse, we were too slow to talk to all of you, he said. While striking a considerably tone throughout his address, the head of Blizzard mentioned no pacification of the event or any reversal of the suspension. So it doesn't look like this one, it doesn't look like no matter how hard Blizzard tried, it's pretty clear that no matter where they go, the Hong Kong protest was going to hang around them, though. So my overall takeaway from BlizzCon is that, on one hand, it sounds as though this one was certainly better than last year with the whole Diablo Immortal debacle of the mess. So on one hand, it certainly was better. But on the other hand, though, given the whole situation with Hong Kong, though, it looks like no matter how hard Blizzard tried, they could not escape it. And it's clear that we had the protesters outside BlizzCon happening, and not everyone is pleased with the head of Blizzard's statement. They think none of them are buying it or anything like that. So I would say the overall takeaway from BlizzCon 2019 is that it was a mixed bag. Better than last year's, like I said, because of that whole Diablo Immortal debacle, but it still could not escape the whole Hong Kong situation. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with some details in regards of No More Heroes 3. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at some information, or should I say new information, that has come out in regards of No More Heroes 3. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of Suda51. I do like a lot of his games come out. Ever since I played the first game of him, first game that he did, which was back in 2005, Killer 7, which was weird and bizarre, but enjoyable nevertheless. Though, even though some of the controls were, well, let's just say different at the time, but nevertheless, it was still an enjoyable game. But most people will recognize Suda51 of doing games such as the No More Hero franchise, one which is considered a fan favorite among a lot of Nintendo fans, considering that we have No More Heroes 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Wii, though I would like to see a port of those games come to Nintendo Switch. And we saw earlier this year the release of Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, a game that was supposedly developed by a small development team, and while it wasn't perfect, it was still enjoyable, nevertheless. But now now at E3 this year, we saw the official announcement that No More Heroes 3 was finally happening after years and years of waiting, though. And now we apparently got some more details, at least that Suda51 shared with The Verge, that Nintendo Life picked up, though. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads, quote, After teasing the game for a very long time, Suda51 and Grasshopper Manufacture finally lift the lid on No More Heroes 3 earlier this year at E3. It's aimed for a 2020 release, and to see Travis Touchdown return as the beam-wielding professional assassin, although we don't know exactly when in 2020. If you've been wondering how development is going, Suda said the game is about 35 to 40% complete. It will be an open world once again, but due to Grasshopper being a middle-class size studio, Suda said it won't be on the same scale as other open world games from publishers such as Ubisoft and Rockstar, which, I mean that's not bad. I mean, if you look at the Outer Worlds, for example, I mean, some of the worlds aren't huge, but there's still plenty to do with doing the game. So I'm not really disappointed on that part, though. He reads that, quote, on a lighter note, motion controls will make a return, and he said, quote, it will definitely have the motions you know from the series, the beam katana, charging motion, oh yeah. Who could forget that one from No More Heroes 1 and 2? You know, the one that was done to illustrate, which I'm sure most of you can look it up on YouTube and see for yourself, which is, well, if you want to use the motion controls on the Joy-Cons, I'm sure that's something a lot of people would be looking forward to. And finally, it also points out that, and one of the bosses in the game is best described as a combination of Thanos, Venom, and Joker. Now, I'm very curious to see what kind of boss that they're going to put in for No More Heroes 3. I'm a little curious about that one. If it looks like partially one part Venom, one part Thanos, and one part Joker. So that is certainly kind of interesting, though. But it is nice to see we got some more information about No More Heroes 3, though. I'm not losing sleep on the fact that it's not going to be as big as, say, like Ubisoft's or Rockstar's open world games, but I'm hoping that it's somewhat bigger than what it was in the first No More Heroes game when that was released back on the Nintendo Wii and so forth. Although the motion controls part, you know, I would try it out. I definitely will try out how the motion controls feel playing it on the Nintendo Switch using the Joy-Cons, and I'm sure we all remember how it was like to charge the beam katana with the Wiimote and all that stuff. Yep. Yeah, that was kind of interesting indeed. So overall, great that we have more information, though. Still curious, however, to see when it will be released in 2020. Are we talking about possibly second quarter 2020, third, fourth? So I'm a little curious to see when that game will come out, but it's definitely one I am looking forward to when it is released, barring any major delays or anything, when it does come out in 2020. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with a rumor going around about the possibility of Microsoft buying Playtonic, and of course Playtonic's releasing a statement in regards to that rumor. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be talking about a rumor going around in regards to Playtonic with Microsoft and Banjo-Kazooie, and of course a statement that Playtonic made in regards of these rumors going around. Now, as far the rumor revolves basically around Banjo-Kazooie, a franchise that has kind of remained dormant for a bit, outside of basically his appearance on the Xbox 360 of Nuts and Bolts, and to his appearance in Rare Replay. He's mostly been dormant until like earlier this year when we saw him make an appearance in Super Smash Bros. Brawl as part of Nintendo's E3 Direct and all that stuff, being one of the new characters and new rosters in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Well, recent events or recent hiring by one of the former Rare employees who now works at Playtonic has started to pop out rumors about the possibility ranging from them doing a Banjo-Kazooie game to the possibility that Microsoft may have purchased Playtonic. As we are aware of, Microsoft has acquired a lot of studios, including recently I remember hearing about Obsidian Entertainment, the developers of The Outer Worlds, recently got purchased by Microsoft. In an article on Game Radar from the original story before Playtonic released a statement, it reads, quote, "Could Banjo-Kazooie be heading to Project Scarlet? A series of too suspicious to be true events has led to the internet to believe a new Banjo-Kazooie game is in the works from Playtonic. Not only that, but the same internet theory has also held that Playtonic has been acquired by Microsoft as a first-party Xbox studio, and we could see an announcement of the purchase from the stage of the company XO19 event in London next week. But where's the evidence for all this rumor? A compelling theory thread from a person by the name of MAZI on Reset Era has outlined events of the evolving puzzle so far, beginning with the recent hire of Banjo-Kazooie character artist Ed Bryan to Playtonic Studios in Derby, UK. Bryan himself has also acknowledged his new position by posting an image of an old Microsoft-branded bag from his Rare days on Twitter, teasing that it comes out of retirement when pressed about the cryptic message. Meanwhile, Galvin Price, Playtonic Games co-owner, has also recently updated his LinkedIn profile to reveal that the studio is working on Game 3, 4, and the 5, one to which the one I always thought would be Game 1, while another Reset Era discovered that the company quietly re-registered itself as Playtonic Game Development Limits in September earlier this year. Now, basically, I think some people would love to see a new entry in the Banjo-Kazooie series. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a new entry comes into the Xbox Scarlet and so forth. Well, it turns out to be that despite this rumor coming out, it seems as though Playtonic did respond to this by releasing a tweet or what they posted on their website. And this article was later updated where it says, quote, Playtonic has put out a message on Twitter confirming it's not working on a Banjo-Kazooie game and highlight that it remains an independent studio. The statement reads, quote, "Hi everyone, we want to address the speculation currently swarming our mention. We hate to be the bearer of the news that isn't what you want to hear, but we thought it's best to come out and say we aren't working on a new Banjo-Kazooie game and we remain an independent studio. While we would love to work on the Bear and Bird again, that ball isn't in our court. With that said, we are key to continuing progress as a studio, carrying the experience of games we worked on old and new to create new characters and adventures for you to hopefully love. We're sorry if this isn't what you want to hear from us at first. We found it amusing that Ed Bryan's bag is being used as serious evidence, but we reckon it wouldn't be fair if we didn't set the record straight, courtesy of Playtonic Games." So, I will say, to some degree, it is kind of disappointed to hear that they're not working on a Banjo-Kazooie game or anything like that, considering we know they have Ukulele and all that stuff, and Ukulele and the Impossible Lair just recently came out, which is a good game, I might add. But at the same time, I also thought this rumor was kind of weird a little bit, considering the fact that a lot of the people who worked at Rare left after, Microsoft acquired them to basically break out and form their own studio and so forth. So it would be kind of weird to see that happen and so forth. That said, though, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somewhere down the road, if a Banjo-Kazooie game does happen, maybe it's possible that Microsoft might license the character out to Playtonic for them to do something for maybe the Xbox Scarlet, maybe develop one for the Xbox Scarlet, or if this happens, if somehow this happens, they decided, hey, work on this character and think about bringing it to other platforms, particularly like the Nintendo Switch. I mean, we've seen Microsoft bring some of their games, not all of them, but some of their games over to the Switch, like the recent release of New Super Lucky Tale, Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest. So, I mean, there's always that possibility. So, overall, it would have been nice to hear the announcement of a brand new entry in the Banjo-Kazooie series. Obviously, it's not happening right now, but who knows? We might hear an announcement of it at some point down the road. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with new information in regards of Persona 5 Scramble, which is not only coming to the PS4, but also the Nintendo Switch as well. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My Two Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at information that has come out in regards of Persona 5 Scramble. Now, when it comes to Warriors games or Musou games, there are some series I'm sort of a fan of and some that I am not. I'm not really a huge fan of, say, like the Dynasty Warriors, maybe a little bit more with the Samurai Warriors, but not so much with the Dynasty Warrior series. However, when Koei Tecmo and Omega Force do games like, say, Hyrule Warriors or Fire Emblem Warriors or even the One Piece Warrior ones, those ones I'm a little bit more of a fan of, because I guess because it incorporates, particularly the Fire Emblem and Hyrule Warriors, elements of the series that makes it feel like it's a step above, like, say, the Dynasty Warrior series that Koei Tecmo is known for. So when I heard that Koei Tecmo and Omega Force was teaming up with Aulx to do a Persona Warriors or Persona Musou type of game known as Persona 5 Scramble, I thought it was kind of interesting to hear about this, even though it may not be maybe not everyone was pleased about this announcement, especially for those who own a Nintendo Switch, when they were hearing rumors that Persona 5 was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and obviously that didn't turn out to be true, and all that stuff, so we're getting this one instead. But nevertheless, it is certainly a title I will be keeping an eye out for, which hopefully we'll hear more about it coming to the West soon. Right now it has only a release date of February 20th, 2020 in Japan at least. But we do have some information that was revealed during a live stream that they did that I thought was kind of interesting to hear about in terms of development of the game and so forth. Some of the information we heard about is that supposedly the game is 90% complete, and they're just fine-tuning all the stuff, though. But we also learned a couple things in regards to the gameplay and so forth. Excuse me. It said some of the stuff we learned is that the game's engine was made by Koei Tecmo and does not work the same as what players would be familiar with Persona 5. The original story came from Koei Tecmo's draft, but it was heavily supervised by the Persona team, with the miraculous attention to details by both companies. The original story apparently looked like burned ashes, though. According to other information we learned is that the Musou genre is about the feel of smashing enemies, but Persona 5 Scramble has a system that allows you to observe the weakness and resistance of enemies while you move around, allowing you to take your equipment and partner personas into account. There's no point to elements that can be cleared without engagement, without any of the game systems, and developers wanted to make use of the combination. There's the ability to change difficulty level of the game for those interested. It says, for the gameplay, developers at first believed that the command section mechanics, which freeze time to allow players to select a persona skill, would destroy the pace of the game, but when finished, felt really comfortable and created a new type of phantom thief action, though. And it points out that some special characters will appear across different parts of Japan and so forth. So there's a lot of information on this, and it does certainly kind of perk my interest in a way, though. Again, I've never played any of the Persona series and all that stuff, but but I am interested in this game in particular, considering that I am somewhat of a fan of the Warrior series, and I'm very curious to see if this one, like how Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors are, how big of a different take on both those genres turn out to be. So overall, some very information from Nintendo Everything that they posted, though. I'm very curious to see how the game plays when it's officially released, and hopefully a Western release is not that far. But even if it doesn't come to the West, or if it comes to West via digital only, if there is an English subtitle option, though, there's always the option to possibly, assuming if a physical version exists, there's always a possibility of importing the game as well, so there's always that option too. But overall, the game sounds interesting, though, and being a fan of games like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors, this is one I'm definitely going to, shall we say, keep an eye out on, to be exact. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 5, and this one has to do with some rumors regarding Fire Emblem, and possibly that Nintendo may have canceled some of these Fire Emblem games for the 3DS in response to the poor sales on the system. Not to mention, Doug Bowser made a statement in regards of the Nintendo 3DS. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My True Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a rumor in regards of Fire Emblem and the whole situation in regarding the cancellation of a remake on the Nintendo 3DS that could make its way over to the Switch, and a comment made by Doug Bowser, the president of Nintendo America, in regards to the Nintendo 3DS in general. Now, as some of you are probably may have not been aware, there have been rumors going around in regards of the 3DS. Most of this has to do with circulating the fact that due to the poor sales of games like the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which was developed by Alpha Dreams, that unfortunately supposedly filed for bankruptcy and so forth, there was speculation that because of that, Nintendo basically shuttered like any plans they had for the 3DS going forward, mostly due in the wake of how the Switch seems to be doing very well. Well, a new rumor by a former editor at Game Informer has basically come out saying that one of those games could be a remake of a 3DS game that was a remake of a remake of a Fire Emblem game that was originally supposed to come to the 3DS but got canceled. The article stated from Game Radar reads that, quote, the odds of another Fire Emblem game arriving for the Nintendo Switch are looking better and better. Game Radar Plus recently reported that the Wall Street Journal's Takahashi Miller believes more 3DS titles will head to the Switch. That notion seems to be even more likely after Greg Miller Kinda Funny podcast, where he chatted with Imran Khan, I-M-R-A-N, again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, former senior editor at Game Informer. During the podcast, Khan mentioned that the success of the Switch Lite could result in more 3DS franchises heading to the handheld, especially after the failure of developers Alpha Dreams' Mario & Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. When that happened, I heard that Nintendo canceled a bunch of further 3DS plans, Khan told Miller. I know there was another Fire Emblem remake in the works, and that was one of the things that they shuttered. So maybe that's one of the things they'll bring forward in the future. reviving down 3DS plans in the wake of an incredible successful Switch Lite sales seems logic. Eurogame reported in October that the newest handheld sold 1.95 million units in 11 days, with The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening selling 3.13 million copies in the same time frame, and Fire Emblem Three Houses selling 2.29 million copies since its late July launch, the best sell in the series history. Honestly, I've said this before in regards to this rumor, and I would have to say that I wouldn't be surprised if this rumor turns out to be true. I wouldn't be surprised if they start moving some games that originally they had for the 3DS and start focusing on the Nintendo Switch, considering that the Switch is, like I said before, the console handheld hybrid and so forth. So this wouldn't be at all surprised at all, though. Although I would be curious if this rumor is true, what 3DS, what Fire Emblem game were they remaking for the 3DS that they got canceled? Was it any of the ones that were released on like the Wii, the game, or on the Nintendo DS, or the Game Boy Advance, or on the GameCube? So I'm a little curious to be exactly what that game would have been. As far as the 3DS itself, despite rumors going around about its demise, it seems as though Nintendo is not saying that they're still continuing to support the system or not. Whether that's just PR spin or whether they truly want to continue the support of the 3DS, I'll leave that opinion entirely up to you. But according to Doug Bowser, president of Nintendo of America, he spoke to The Verge, and here's what he said about in regards of the 3DS. Quote, "We continue to look at the 3DS family, both hardware and games, as a strong entry point for some consumers. And we've seen that as long as consumers' demand is there, we'll continue to provide both hardware and software on the front. When quizzed at what point it could be said that the 3DS is finally dead as a platform, Bowser replied, quote, "We're certainly not going to say it today. I think time will tell. We will continue to support 3DS this holiday and into 2020. And the article concluded that, on one hand, of course, Bowser isn't going to come out and declare the 3DS is done and dust. Not while Nintendo still has inventory of the console it wants to shift over the festive period. But in the cold light of days, the machine has little in the way of a solid future. Software support has all but dried up, and it's almost impossible to find brand new versions of anything but the 2D variations of the system now. Still, it points out it still has an amazing library of games and so forth. Perhaps 2020 is when Nintendo will finally pluck up the courage to bid the 3DS family a fond farewell." So obviously Nintendo is saying, or Doug Bowser is saying right now, is that there's still support for the 3DS and so forth, but I have a feeling it's only a matter of time before they decide to say it's time to retire the 3DS once and for all. I mean, with the Switch being their new Switch being the console handheld hybrid that it is, I think it's only a matter of time. I just don't see how they can continue to support the 3DS down the road, even if this is just a PR spin or something like that. I mean, some people may say they may have more to offer for the 3DS, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Again, I could be wrong, and there may be surprises for the 3DS going into 2020, but I honestly believe that we are reaching a point where I think it's time to say the 3DS is going to have to truly retire. And then honestly, I think this, to me, don't get me wrong, I respect Doug Bowser and so forth, but in my view, I view this as basically nothing more than just a PR spin. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6, and this one has to do with a rumor that Valve might be doing something to compete against Google Stadia. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 6 of our My Two Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at a rumor. A lot of these videos have been based off of rumors, with one being the whole Playtonic situation is basically debunked, and that has to do with Valve and the possibility that they could be jumping aboard the gaming streaming bandwagon. Now, we've been seeing a lot of companies have been starting to push the whole idea of gaming streaming. We've seen Sony push it with the whole PlayStation Now. Microsoft is doing it with the whole Xbox Game Pass, and recently the whole xCloud, where you can use like any devices to play Xbox games though. And of course, obviously, we all know about Google Stadia, which is coming out as well, with the whole Stadia base being out towards next year. Though whether that becomes a success or not remains to be seen. We'll have to see how well it does and whether or not it does become a true success or not. Well, it looks like Valve, the company that owns Steam, the launcher used by a lot of PC gamers who basically buy games from PC and so forth and use that as their launcher for a lot of the games they want to play, could be entering in the competition against Google Stadia if these rumors turn out to be true or anything like that. In an article from Destructoid, it reads that, quote, an emerging trend is growing on the rise of cloud-powered games streaming. PlayStation Now has tackled this concept for half a decade, allowing players to stream games to their PS4 and PC. Xbox ups the antes recently with Project xCloud, which enables Xbox One games to stream to mobile devices. Google Stadia, which launches in 2 weeks, hinged its entire ecosystem on leveraging Google servers to stream video games. There might be a new competitor. Steam Database, a group that tracks changes to Steam, has found a code update that includes something called Stream Cloud Gaming. Here, the GitHub document that details the new source code. This discovery comes from an upcoming Stream Cloud Gaming algorithm, which seems to be an updated distributing agreement that Valve was asked partners to sign. According to the tweet, it reads that, quote, from a tweet from someone named Steam Database, Valve is working on Stream Cloud Gaming. According to partner site Code Update, partners will need to sign and drill into their terms. Could this be a competitor to Google Stadia, though? Now, the article reads, quote, if Valve is indeed pursuing cloud gaming, it will be a natural evolution from its current system. Right now, Steam allows players to stream games to devices outside of their network through Steam Link anywhere, but it requires a PC that's always on to act as a server. Cloud gaming just place the bandwidth burden on Valve rather than the consumers. Also, there's a sizable demographic for Steam Cloud gaming. Project xCloud is currently for streaming Xbox first-party games. Google Stadia is an entirely new platform for streaming that requires no additional hardware. Steam Cloud Gaming could take some of the wind out of Stadia's sail among PC players who already have a significant library built up through Steam. All they need, both local PC and local PC play and cloud-based gaming streaming, will be contained within the same device. But this is all putting the cart ahead of the horse. For now, Stream Cloud Gaming is nothing more than a name, a bit with a name that makes its intention perfectly clear. So it would be very interesting to see if Valve does something like that indeed. And as for whether or not it will be a game changer or not, I'm not 100% sure or anything like that. I still have my ifs about the whole cloud streaming to be exact, and I still have some concerns with the whole Google Stadia thing. While I won't say I want Stadia to fail or anything like that, and I will say the whole idea of a Stadia base where you just pay for the games and not like that server like you do with the Stadia founders or all that stuff, though, still a little iffy, especially with lag and so forth. So there's a lot of hurdles that still need to be overcome terms of the whole idea with the whole Google, like, you know, Google Stadia. If Valve is doing this, if they are doing something to compete against Google Stadia, I'm very curious to see how this will work out. I mean, could we use, you know, like ranging from like a controller, or do we need a PC to do all these games or anything like that? That, like, do we need to sign up to, you know, Steam and all that stuff? So there's a lot of unknown questions if it is true and all that stuff. So overall, it's kind of interesting, though. We'll have to wait and see if it does turn out to be true, and if cloud streaming does truly take off, though. It will be interesting to see who does it best. Will Sony do it well with PlayStation Now? Will Xbox succeed with Project X Cloud or the Xbox Game Pass? Could Google Stadia be actually a success, or could excuse me, or could Valve offer an alternative to Google Stadia and really put a real be a huge competitor on this? So time will ultimately tell. So overall, it sounds interesting, but I'm still a little bit concerned in regards to the whole cloud streaming thing when it comes to video games and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about BlizzCon 2019? Were you pleased with the announcement that they made this year? Do you think it was better than last year's BlizzCon? Do you think the Hong Kong protests overshadowed BlizzCon 2019, or you don't think it really overshadowed it at all? What are your thoughts about some more information about No More Heroes 3? Are you pleased with how the game? You pleased with what you've been hearing so far about in regards to the game, though? Are you happy that it's going to be open world, but not on the level as what Ubisoft and Rockstar did? Is this one of your highly anticipated games for the Nintendo Switch? What do you thought about this whole rumor in regards of Playtonic and all that stuff? Do you think some people may have jumped the gun on this rumor into thinking that Microsoft was going to buy Playtonics, though? Are you disappointed that another Banjo-Kazooie game is not being worked on? Do you think that a Banjo-Kazooie game will happen at some point down the road? What are your thoughts about the whole situation with Persona 5 Scramble and the information that has come out for it, though? Is it a game that you're looking forward, though? Is this the type of Persona 5 game you're looking forward to trying out? Do you wish that Aulx would have brought just Persona 5 to the Nintendo Switch or anything like that? What are your thoughts about the rumor about the possibility that a remake of a Fire Emblem game was canceled on the Nintendo 3DS? Are you not surprised by this in any way? Do you think that Nintendo should really abandon the 3DS at all, despite their claim that they still believe there's still more life in the Nintendo 3DS? And what are your thoughts about Valve possibly doing a cloud-based gaming streaming service similar to Google Stadia in any way? Do you think this is a smart move for Valve to do? Do you think it's not a smart move at all? Do you think it can work? Do you think the whole cloud streaming thing? I have a hard time saying that. Do you think it could still? Do you think that this is the future of gaming? Do you think it could work and all that stuff? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Excuse me. Links are in the description of this video, and I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!